good morning, good evening, and to some, good night. You're joining back for another midnight memoir. As I look up into the whiteness of my ceiling, I'm reassured with a sensation of infinite security that if gravity was to cease right now, as it is often known to do, I'd be cradled in my fall. I'd be caught by my ceiling from falling off into the abyss of the night. However, equally, that security, that safety, that reassurance cripples me with a sensation of fear, with an angst. A debilitating realization that as much as my ceiling stops me from the night, it also forbids me of it. That if gravity were to stop, perhaps my neck would break, as my security becomes my executioner. This same idea, this same concept, is similar to the mind. Room is your place of security. It's a reflection of yourself. You have your books or your trophies or pictures, little mementos sprinkled around, reminding you of who you were and who you've been. Certain elements that act as a mirror to yourself, that hold some sort of significance to who you are as a person. But this same room, this same mind, is separate from the world. That while I look up to the whiteness of my ceiling, I am sheltered from the wonder of the void. I am forbidden, I am blinded by my ceiling from seeing the night. And our mind does this to ourselves, It acts as a protector, as almost like a border control. It says, no, this can't go out. Oh yes, this is allowed. Things that become our social norms or social stigmas. You're not allowed to say a certain thing or behave a certain way or wear certain attire, especially no attire at all. We become critics to ourselves. Things that you have in your room that reflect something, a hidden desire, a precious memory, you don't share with the world because that's something personal to you, that if they knew, they could attack your heart. That's the ceiling. It's protecting you. But at the same time, it's debilitating you from being truly seen. You don't get the rarity of life. If gravity were to stop and you hit your ceiling and you die, what good was the security at all? Wouldn't it have been much better to have fallen through and at last tasted the richness of the night sky, to to taste that crisp air, to breathe, to feel a momentary flight before spiraling into forever. And that's what I ponder. That's what I think about. That's what I think dreams are. Is this wandering the empty streets of your own mind, seeing parts of yourself that you've forgotten, parts of the things that are forbidden from being seen by anyone else, sometimes by yourself. You know, in your dreams, you strip yourself into the rawest part of your personality, that nightmare that you have, that repressed fear that's coming out, that's being replayed. You've denied that in your waking conscience. It's too hard to think about. You know, I'm afraid of exam. I'm afraid of disappointing my father. I'm afraid of myself. The worst things that we can become. But when we are asleep, it's that respite, it's that taking away the ceiling to see the darkness. And sometimes you fall. Sometimes dreams can lead us into strange places. And I'm not even just talking about dreams in the sense of your literal dreams. Sometimes it can be at night when you're so tired that the sensor is broken on your mouth, and you're speaking to someone and then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, I've just shared my whole life with this stranger. What am I doing? This is so wrong. As if I should allow someone to know me. Heck, I don't even know myself. As those barriers break down, there's this connection, there's this moment of flight before that absolute horror that you were just falling into the infinity of nothingness. And that's true in some senses of relationships, you know, that there's a nervousness of now it's just potential. You know, we don't know what's at the end of the universe. We might fall forever and then finally see that stars are just pricks into another reality. You know, we get to the end of the darkness and there's a whole universe of light outside of our universe. Like, I don't know. And if you're taking this very literally, you're missing it. What I'm saying is relationships at the end of the day, you can have a moment of, oh my gosh, I just shared everything with someone and now I feel like someone truly sees me. I'm sort of standing naked mentally before this person, and it's terrifying because you go, what happens now if they turn on me? That's the void. But it's also like, what happens if I fall and then I fall into bliss? What happens if this relationship leads to ins and outs of states of bliss? You know, 1 minute we're fighting, the next minute we're laughing, the next minute it's 3 a.m. and we're drinking coffee on a river in some strange city because in the spur of the moment we decided to run away. When we're asleep, the ceiling that we put in ourselves, the one that keeps the trinkets inside, the ones that we start to forget. In the daytime, the things that are unacceptable, to be sad, to be happy, to be outrageously happy. I'm not just talking about laughing with someone, to be outrageously ecstatic. You know, when you just love someone and you just want to tell them that, but it's just crazy. You can't just tell someone that you love them, especially if they're a stranger. But you just get that sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with you. And we're not at that stage yet, we're in a relationship. And you just can't tell them. But at night, you look at your phone and you're like, I'm so tired right now. I literally do not care how this goes. I just need them to know. Or maybe you're lying there at night and your fantasy just comes out, you know. We running away together and the Eiffel Tower, and there's rings and champagne and stars. Those desires come out, the fears, the joys, the sorrow. Someone that you wish you could just forget because it's so hard to see their face because they're not around anymore. But then in the nighttime, they come back. Or guilt. When the ceiling's taken away and we see that void, there is fear. What happens if I face a guilt and it's just too much to bear and I break under its weight? What happens if I fall and the abyss just goes on forever and I just start spiraling and that's it, forever? What happens if I share with someone who I am and they reject me? That's worse than them rejecting the mask that I portray. That's worse than them just rejecting the ceiling me. Because at least the real me is still kept secret. It hurts less when they only reject who they think you are, not who you actually are. But what if you just fall and you end up overcoming that guilt? You see new solar systems, you see new worlds that you just wouldn't have been possible had you stayed in your ceiling, had you stayed in your mind, had you, literal you, never come out of that head. That's the beauty of wandering in your mind. That's the beauty of wandering the vacant streets. At night, your own streets where you go, oh wow, I forgot I put this trinket there. This is such a beautiful memory. This love that I repress coming out, boiling over like a fume coming up through the nostrils that gives you such a high, or this fear that you've just been avoiding. You haven't solved the fear. You haven't fallen into the abyss and actually come to another world. You've just hit the ceiling and you're dying inside. The you is dying to get out, but it's crashing as it hits the ceiling, crashing as it hits your skull. Let me out, let me out. Let me out, it says, and it seeps through in some spaces. Fears, wants. Only when the defenses are down, only when the night comes and our person just seeps through the cracks, wandering those streets of your mind, the pathways, wandering almost the room of your mind, the books and the memories and the first loves and the last goodbyes. Sometimes you don't want to think about love, the goodness of love, because it's ended, and that's hard too. But then you have a dream and you see that person, you're like, oh my gosh, I remember when we were totally head over heels for each other. And for a moment you feel like you're falling into the infinity, but that vision is exactly what you needed. That moment to see that person, to reflect on it and to be like, okay, I wouldn't share this me with anyone else because it's too hard, but I had to face it at some point. I had to just, it's something that has been on my mind, it's been consuming me, and now I've seen her, I've seen him, I've seen that memory, I've seen that wish that never got fulfilled. I've seen it now, and I can let it go again. Sometimes I just think we get so afraid of the eternity, we get so afraid of the night, that we die on impact of hitting the ceiling. We're so afraid of showing ourselves and the world rejecting us that we never really develop a person at all. It always just hits the walls of our minds, and then that person dies and it falls back down. We're all gonna fall off eventually. Gravity's gonna stop. In terms of a mental state, gravity one day is gonna stop. And is the you gonna fall off into the night? Is there gonna be a you collectively there that's gonna fly off? Or are you just gonna hit the ceiling and nothing goes up into the sky, nothing gets to taste the freedom? Take falling, whatever you will, dying, new stages of life. Just daily struggles. At the end of the day, you reflect and you go, okay, well I'm gonna shove that down. That doesn't feel too good. I'm gonna put that away. Well, that was really awesome, but I don't want to tell anyone because, I don't want anyone else feeling bad. I don't want to get my hopes up with life. So you put that away. What if you just open that ceiling and just fall into that night, fall into that dream? Realize the fear. Realize that not everything's okay. Realize that everything's fantastic. Maybe, hey, I am in love with this person, and why have I not told this person? Have that revelation. Have that revelation that actually I'm afraid of something, and this needs to be dealt with instead of just pushing it down. Or have that revelation of, I am sad. I'm sad. I'm so focused on trying to be happy all the time because the world tells me to be happy. That's the person I have to betray. That's the ceiling. That's the ceiling. So when I hit the ceiling because I'm denying that I'm sad, then I feel even more disconnected. Realize you're sad. Fall off into the night. Because at the end of that night travel, maybe there's a planet out there where you belong. And I'm not talking about just disappearing from the world. No, not literally. I'm saying fall off. Take that risk. Open that ceiling. Speak it out. Hey, man, the truth is I am sad. Oh, whoa, why have you never told me this before? I was embarrassed. I thought you would reject me, and then I'd be falling into the night forever into this terrible place. And he was like, no man, I'm always here for you. And then you've just fallen into the night. Sure, you were nervous. Sure, you had a moment of flight where you're like, oh my gosh, I've just shared this with someone. I'm in a high right now. And then you've been like, oh my gosh, I've just shared this with someone. This could go horribly. And then you've come to a place of, oh wow, there is actually someone here for me. There was something to catch me other than just the ceiling. Instead of dying, I'm arriving into another world, into another universe, a universe where there's light at the end of the darkness. I know it sounds idealistic, but the defenses have got to come down sometime. Gravity does stop every now and then when we have a free fall. Something tragic happens, something amazing happens, and gravity stops. I'm in love with this girl, and now I'm flying. Gravity stopped. Are you going to deny it? Are you going to repress it? I'm not just saying, go out and say that you love everyone and that it's going to be happy ever after. Sometimes this person doesn't love you back. But are you okay with just accepting your own emotion and being like, hey, this person doesn't love me back, but I told them that I love them and that's enough for me? Are you okay with going, right now I'm sad. I need to sit with that. I need to fall for a little bit. Maybe there's something at the end of it. Because when you repress it, the sadness doesn't go away. It only grows in a sense. It hits the ceiling, comes back down, it's just getting pounded against the ceiling. You're sad, you're sad, you're sad. No. Okay, I'm sad. Now let's start to look for new ways. You deny a problem, it's never going to get fixed. You accept it, you fall for a little bit. You go, okay, this is a strange feeling. and then you let it go into something else. It arrives at a new universe, it arrives at a new planet. I'm in love with this person, okay, they didn't love me back. But I jumped. I did that. I leapt out. I didn't keep it in my head. I didn't let it hit the ceiling and then forever be a thing on my mind. Oh, does this person love me? Does this person not love me? Da 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 da. You know, this sorrow, it weighs on me, it weighs on me. Okay, I reached out. That friend wasn't there for me. Is there someone else? But if you don't let it come out of that head, it's going to keep going round and round and round, and gravity stopped, and so you're just falling into that ceiling, thumping, 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 and eventually the building falls away, and so you have to ultimately face the void at some point. But let's not go there just yet. But for the sake of this small talk, you're thumping, 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 thumping. But instead you could have been letting it out, falling through the ceiling, going off into the night, that moment of flight, that moment of exhilaration, and then going like, okay, this person's not there for me, so I gotta jump out of my ceiling again and reach out to someone else. But in your mind, if you hadn't done that, you would always be asking, oh, is that person there for me? Or does this person love me back? Or would the world celebrate with me too if they heard this good news? Would the guilt go away if I let it come? If I let it just sit for a second, if I just take that falling step? Gravity stopped, you feel guilty. You can let it hit the surface of your mind, you can let it hit the ceiling, you can go, okay, this is a terrible feeling, I hate it, I'm just going to keep pushing it down and then it's going to keep coming back up. Or you let it fall into the universe and you come to a place where like, you know what, I can forgive myself. Or like I said with fear, you come to that place where it's like, okay, I'm scared, I keep repressing it and I keep procrastinating, and totally I get that, I procrastinate all the time. But it doesn't solve the problem. So you come to a place, okay, it's scary facing something that I feel totally unprepared for, but at least I gave it a try. And maybe you come to the other world where it's like, wow, I succeeded. I was so scared of failing and I succeeded. Or maybe you fail. So you hit the night sky and you're falling and you have that flight sensation, excitement, everything I've just said. And then you fail. You come back down to earth. And you're like, damn, this feels terrible. I didn't expect that. I guess I didn't expect for myself to fail, but then also I did because I had so many fears. Like, this is exactly what happens. But you realize it's not the end of the world to fail. I mean, yeah, sure, in reason. Like, if you're a dream right now and you're like, Sam, you really inspired me, I'm gonna get into a race car, then okay, yeah, literal death might be an issue, and question what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like, if you're falling out of your skull is doing something totally reckless and crazy, then okay, yeah, maybe be a little bit scared, but if your fear is failing an exam, you'll never know if you're going to be good for the job unless you just let it out of your skull. You have that sensation of falling. Okay, I am scared. I've accepted that now. I'm actually in the state of accepting that as a real thing. I'm scared, and so you feel that yucky feeling. And then you do it. And then you go, well, you know what, failure wasn't that bad. I don't know what I was so scared about. I'm just in the same position. And it just means I have to try again. But I have to think of a new strategy. It's not the end. It's just another beginning. When you fall into the abyss, you fall into the night, it's not the end. It's just another world to discover. And as you think this, and as you dream dreams and you get naked, metaphorically or physically, I don't know, not in your room, but as you get naked, in your mind, as you unrobe yourself and you have those dreams, I'll be here, confronted with my own thoughts, my own repressed personalities, my own repressed feelings, desires, delusions, decisions, guilts, fears, sorrows. And maybe as you unpack them with the aid of a dream, I'll suffer them with the reality of facing it in the darkness, taking that jump, taking that leap, feeling gravity just fall repeatedly as I mull new things over, as I turn joys and sorrows and fears into strategies, into sensations. Sometimes people think they need to solve every feeling, but sometimes you just need to feel the feeling, and then it goes away. And I'll be doing that. Just feeling everything without the gentleness of sleep, or with the rudeness of reality, the viciousness. I'm plucking it purposely, touching wounds, bandaging them, until, as the light comes, I turn away. I turn away into the nothingness again. So, with that said, and the night done, good night, good evening, and good morning.